What's up, everybody? Mark with Cardivox Academy here, and I am very excited because one of my favorite bands of all time, Alcest, has released a new album. Now, I have been listening to Alcest and loving pretty much everything they released ever since 2012 when Le Voyage de l'Âme was released. Sorry for saying that poorly. But it's interesting. On this channel, I talk about my three favorite metal vocalists, right? They are Johnny Davey, Travis Ryan, and Alex Tan, right? Job for a Cowboy, Cattle Decapitation, and Black Tongue. It's interesting. Job for a Cowboy, Cattle Decapitation. There's a little theme there. But in reality, they're my three favorite metal vocalists of like the intense, heavy, disgusting, nasty side of metal. When it comes to the more melodic side, two of my favorites are Devin Townsend and Neige. French word for snow that, again, I'm probably pronouncing weird. It's interesting. I've been told my French pronunciation is pretty good. I'm just shy about it on camera. But anyway, not only is he one of my favorite vocalists ever, but if I had to pick one favorite metal scream, right, it would be the scream of Neige from Alcest. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Mark. I've been a metal vocalist for about 15. At the end of this year, in October, it'll be 15 years. So it's February. We'll still say 14. But I've been doing metals for a while in a band called Kardashev. We're on Metal Blade Records. You can check out our last release, Liminal Right. I think it turned out okay. And normally I have to say, oh, Kardashev, check us out. We're not like this band because I'm talking about Distant or Lorna Shore or Slaughter to Prevail or 1056, which I just did 1056. I don't know, which I did reaction to. But I can finally say, if you like the band we're talking about today, you just may like my band too. Well, that's a good feeling. That's nice. Because there's some crossover in sound. I take the reaction format here on the channel. I break it down. I pause a lot. I talk about vocal technique, and I talk about how you can do sounds like, safely and efficiently and not hurt yourself. If you like the way that I teach and explain vocals, check us out on cardivoxacademy.com. I do give one-on-one lessons, and we also have a online course, False Chord Fundamentals, which has been helping a lot of people out and teaches you the basic sound that, covers everything from all those sounds build on false chords. So that's enough. I'm really excited to check out this song. So let's do it. Okay, let's go ahead and pause it there because I guess we got to pause it someday. We got almost 2 minutes in. Ooh, that's a copyright strike and a takedown right there. Probably not. So anyways, let's go ahead and talk about a couple things. First and foremost, if you are familiar with Alcest, this is a sound that you were probably anticipating and that they're doing so well. I love the big atmosphere. The reverb, One thing that Kardashev we got criticized about on our last album was too much reverb, and we were just like, we don't care. Forever. Reverb forever and always. And I think the use of reverb that Alcest has is tasteful, is perfect. Also, I love the sort of like rhythmic ambient, not ambient, but the rhythmic sort of meditative cymbal work here. But let's talk about niche. Let's talk about his vocals. So right now he's doing something awesome, which is he is using a very light, a very soft, chesty voice going up into more of a mixed space. Now my expertise is harsh vocals, but as somebody who also does a lot of clean singing, I can tell you a little bit about it, and I can help you a little bit with it as well. But he uses a lot of his soft and sort of like chest to sort of mixed voice to do some really beautiful things. Now, one of the great things about it is this is not necessarily that difficult a thing for you to do. It can be difficult to master. It can be difficult to sell, as far as like, taking it and really polishing it up. So I don't want to, cut him short. He's got one of my favorite voices ever. But what I'm saying is that it's a very good place for people who are new to start, because a lot of what you can do is just sort of think about first, this is not what it's going to sound like when you're done, but first speaking on pitch, right? So one thing that I like to do with a lot of my students, because sometimes we'll dip into clean singing to help with their harsh vocals, or, they're like, hey, I can already scream, but I need some help singing on pitch or whatever. And we can definitely do that. One thing we'll do is we'll just talk and then we'll slow it down. So let's say you're saying like, your friends, if I have any students watching this right now, you're going to roll your eyes. You're going to be like, oh, this again. Oh yeah. Cause they know. But let's say you're hanging out with your friends after work. They want to go out for drinks, which like, why would anyone do that? I've never been, people are like, oh, after work, let's go get some drinks. And I'm like, why would I spend all that money when I got cheaper beer at home? But you say, nah, that's okay. Nah, that's all right. I'll go home. Nah, that's okay. Now, if you hold that out, now again, this is going to sound like talking. We're not working on tone yet. We're working on steady, even airflow. We're working on, placement. We're working on, having just an even pitch. And we don't really even care right now which pitch you're falling on, a little sharp, a little flat. Don't care. Take that pressure off yourself. Nah, I'm going to go home. Nah, right? And you can do a lot of stuff with that. You can practice, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. And then eventually work it into something a little bit more cool. Now, one thing that is going to be difficult to nail over time is sitting in this super, super comfortably. And I shouldn't even say difficult, but really mastering it and making it sound polished and beautiful. And this is somewhere where you might end up. This really beautiful balance of like light vocal cord engagement, just enough breathiness to make it sound soft and ethereal and fit with the music. The storytelling that comes from the movement of his melodies is absolutely beautiful. And then over time, as you sing in that voice and you get comfortable with it, you'll find your way there. Now, the last thing I want to say is, one thing you want to be careful with about singing with any sort of like breathy tone is you can dry out your vocal cords and like sort of an overly sometimes when people try to sing breathy, you're trying to do something like, I don't know. I am a fragment of stone that was broken. Oh, your mind's still alive in the trees. Right? You're trying to do something with a little bit of airflow. A lot of time what new singers will do is they'll overdo that airflow. I am a fragment of stone that was broken. Oh, your mind's still alive in the trees, washed away. And what can happen, even though sometimes in a mix with the right production that can sound cool, is you can actually really tire out your vocal cords very, very quickly. They can get dry. That makes them connect a little less smoothly. Sometimes you can strain the vocal cords by having to hold them in that perfect position to get that airiness that you think sounds good but is overexerted. So that's something to think about while you're doing these things, speaking on pitch and then slowly turning that into a singing voice. Make sure to think about your vocal comfort, because if it's uncomfortable, you're doing too much. Anyways, that's a lot of my voice. Let's listen to this, Angel. Mm. I'm not sure if that's a synth or if it's his voice really, really like pushed back and verbed out, maybe even stretched, right? Um, but there are these really cool swelling notes that come in super, super smoothly. And that's if I could give Alcest one word, it would be smooth. Now, if you're this far through and you're like, Mark, I thought you mostly talked about screaming. Alcest does have screams, like I talked about. This guy has one of my favorite screams to ever be one of my favorite screams to have ever been scrummed. I don't know if this song has it though. Not every song has it, but either way, this is a gem. But I love it. Sounds like it could be a synth, it could be something else, but it sounds almost like we've got two layers of his voice just doing like a ooh. I don't remember which note it is, but just like a ooh, ooh, sort of easing in and out, super smooth, super stretched. Whatever it is, it's super beautiful. Again, love the reverb. And also shout out to whoever animated these figures. The animation is crazy and the video is stunningly beautiful. This is so much my vibe. This is so much stuff that I like to listen to. Like when I'm not listening to like, the heavier stuff, this is where I tend to show up or end up. But let's keep going. Yeah, the animation and the colors. The storytelling is really cool. I'm not, obviously I'm watching it for the first time. I can't be entirely sure, but one thing that Nisha said about his project, Alcest, is that it was inspired by him trying to find that feeling of whimsy and fantasy that many of us have as children, and that's kind of why they sound like they do and why their aesthetic looks like it does. And if you ever get a chance to see these homies live, you absolutely should. Let's keep going. I saw them live with The Body once. That was a wild show. The Body, I got bodied. I'll put it to you that way. Here we go. So there, oh man, I'm just like floating in the clouds. That's what this, my camera's not over there anymore. It's over here. That's what this band does. They put you in the absolute clouds. And this song is a very like, so far anyway, a very like happy, hopeful, joyful song. They definitely have some songs. They still all have this ethereal, soft, like very, very dream-like sensation, but they certainly have songs that are more morose, sad, if you could say. But I like how he sort of leaned into his voice here a little bit, right? This is a really good example of how sometimes you can just sing beautifully. Sometimes you don't have to do a million cool, amazing things. Sometimes you just have to sing beautifully, and that is actually beautiful enough, right? A really good example that I like to use with vocal technique is, some dishes, like they're this beautiful, complex, layered, amazing, like curry with so many different flavors, and then other dishes are just the best piece of sashimi or best piece of sushi you've ever had. Which one do I like better? I don't know, because they both have beautiful strengths, right? So here we have, again, it doesn't sound like this song's going to have any screaming in it, but I don't care. This is my channel, and I'm really happy I did this because I love this song so far. But we took that, that softer, I don't have this melody. I'll just do what I did before. So we had that softer, I am a fragment of stone that was broken. Oh, you're la na 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 da. I just forgot my own lyrics. Jesus Christ. We have that, and then I am a fragment of stone that was broken. Oh, right. And that can be a difficult thing for people to do sometimes. And the reason for that is because when we're singing, we can sometimes have a tendency to want to let our vocal folds blow apart, right? So when somebody's singing, softly, row, row, row your boat, and then they try to go louder, they'll do one of two things. They'll get a lot of extra breathiness, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, or they'll constrict. We've all heard this before. Maybe we've done it. I certainly did this back in the day when I was first getting started. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, merrily, merrily, merrily. Like, how common is that, right? But the interesting thing about it is that most of us have fairly healthy speaking voices. And even if you don't, right, because some people have, certain things with their voices going on, you can still do things to get around that. But most of us have fairly healthy speaking voices. So if I was to say, let's say a package got delivered. I'm going to look this way, but my door is over there. Let's say a package got delivered and I was having a conversation, and then I look over and I say, hey, yeah, you can just leave it by the door. Yeah, right over there on the left. That's it, right? Now, I don't want to say that every ounce of our clean singing voice is just like talking, right? Because obviously, like, most of us don't speak in a falsetto. Most people don't speak in a head mix, right? So obviously we can't use that everywhere, but it's a great place to get started. So, if I take that, and I'm like, yeah, you can put that over there. Yeah, right there on the left side of the door. Yeah, whoa, yeah. Right? A little halo for you. You can hear that I didn't really change a lot of what was going on in my throat, right? I changed a little bit of, first of all, I was holding things longer. And second, I was doing like a little tone work, which wasn't even that much. Just a little movement of the soft palate, little change in the back of the tongue. And you're like, turns into shift your vowel. That's really all you need to do. And you can get some decent tones, right? Let's keep going because this is dope. Who wants to guess what my favorite part was? The outro. I love outros. It's just my favorite part of any song.
See this pattern?
No, I don't. Quiet you. So that was sick. Oh, that was beautiful. That I love that band so so much. And that's it. You know, I've been doing metal vocals for almost, 14 years. I teach crazy, nasty deathcore, death metal, sludgy vocals for a living, and I love it. I love it. I love getting like punched in the face by like nasty breakdowns. But that right there, of all screams, if I had to hear one screaming tone for the rest of my life, it would be that one, because it is so soulful. It's you know what it is? Okay, well, this may be, there are a lot of reasons I love it, but one of the main reasons I love it is because it sounds like the scream. How do I word this? The scream is a tool to convey emotion. It doesn't sound like the scream is heavily curated. It sounds like this when he screams, it sounds like he is screaming not because he's saying like, let's do this sick scream. It sounds like he's screaming because he's saying this is the best way to convey the emotion that I want to convey in this portion of the song. You know what I'm saying? And I really think that that's so cool. And no, don't get me wrong. I've made a whole career on talking about heavily acrobatic, like, nonstop, like all that kind of stuff, right? And I teach people how to do it for a living. But man, if I was on a desert island and I could only have one scream to listen to, that's a weird analogy, but it would be that one. That would be the scream that would hold the demons at bay, that would keep the anxiety gone. You know what I'm saying? And let's talk about different ways to approach it. Again, this is something that's built on something very fundamental, right? That you can turn into something very, very beautiful, right? Let's take, now some people might hear this and they'll be like, that's a fry scream. And they may say, that's a false chord scream. Oftentimes, when I am working with students and we're talking about screams that exist or that coexist with our clean voice and are more focused on conveying emotion than showing technical prowess, I will say, let's get those terms out of our head, right? And let's just explore a certain place in our voice, and whatever distortion feels the most comfortable and shows up kind of on its own, that's what we're going to let it be. Maybe it'll be fry. Maybe it'll be false chord. Maybe it'll feel like a little bit of both. As long as we're conveying the emotional message that we want to convey, that's what matters. In moments like these, it's not about pinning down precisely this or precisely that. It's about expressing something. That's what these screams are built to do, right? And so that's the way we approach it. Now, so that being said, I'm going to show you the way that I would approach it, right? So for me, because this is a sound I use a lot, although delivery is a little bit different, I would sigh it out. That's where I would start. I would start with that, traditional false chord sigh. Then I'd I wouldn't press it in. I would allow my voice to coexist. And I do this after being able to create a voiceless false chord. I think that's very important. If you're going to do voicey false chord tones, like if you're going to do something more aggressive, like, I think these are my personal thoughts, that you should take time to learn how to create voiceless false chord, even if it's like very, very basic. Because then you can add your voice in later and your distortion is not dependent on your voice, thus reducing the risk of injury. That's my philosophy anyway. But once I've got that, I'm going to let my voice come in. Now I'm going to pair this. The way that I'm going to keep that comfortable is pairing this with knowledge about how to aim my voice in my mask. So the distortion is this, and the clean voice is not this. It's this. I feel that vibrating here. Now that has the right pieces, but it doesn't sound quite correct, right? We're going for something higher, for something more vulnerable, for something more open, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Whoops. I'm going to take this. I'm going to turn it into, yeah. And I'm going to let that grunt follow, right? Right? And that's going to give me that very pained, very like, broken up sound. But when I do it correctly, when I aim the voice up to this space, hey, one thing you can do is you can do like an old like Disney character voice. I don't know who this would be exactly, but I feel like in old Disney movies from like the 60s and 70s, maybe even 80s, there was always a character that talked like this. First he was over there, and then he was over here, right? And if I take that voice and I try to kind of turn it into a false chord, I start to sound like this. And that's really comfortable to do. Despite the way that it sounds, I actually don't feel a lot of grit. It really doesn't feel like much. What I feel is I feel a lot of resonance up in the front of the face. My nose and my cheekbones are going zzz. My throat feels incredibly open and relaxed. And the actual engagement on my vocal folds feels really, really light. And the feeling of tissue slapping together, the thing that's actually like bullying the sound waves as they come out to create the distortion that we hear, that feels up behind the tongue. So this whole thing feels like it's kind of existing up this way. And, after doing these types of vocals, now granted, I just did like 3. So this is, I'm going to pass the test, but it's because I did barely anything. Although if you were to do these vocals over an hour, you would still want to pass the test. One way that you can be fairly certain that you're doing this healthfully is to do like light falsettos, right? Ooh, ooh. And if your voice is connecting, again, vocal health is more dynamic and involved than just, I can still do a falsetto, no problem. But it's a little check that you can do to help you guide yourself in the right direction. I'm gonna fake it here, but if it sounds like this, or you have like a really delayed onset on your head voice, again, I'm putting that on to exhibit it for you. Then you might be running into some issues. 2 things that can make you fail the test that don't actually mean you're hurting your vocal cords. You might just not be doing the test correctly. Going higher than you're simply capable of. Like when I was doing those little falsetto, and you want it to be not good falsetto. You want it to be really relaxed, honestly kind of shitty, like overly relaxed. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Like that. You don't want to sing well. But if you're going too high, or if you just you're a person who has no access to your head voice or your falsetto anyway, well, then you're going to fail the test anyway because you just don't know how to get there, right? Anyways, I'm just talking now, so I'm going to go ahead and stop. But if you liked Alcest, you should definitely check them out. They've got a lot of cool stuff, a lot of variety. I mean, everything falls into this like very mystical, very dreamlike state. But they've had a couple different eras, and that's all I know. Many thanks, much love, I'm out.